of our discussion of the Aaron Hernandez documentary on Netflix. So this episode opens with Aaron now that he shot this guy who he knows that now wants to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying his best with the Patriots to get traded.
Yes.
He's telling Belichick, hey,
he acting like a wussy because you know what?
Mm-hmm.
You hanging with street niggas.
Yeah.
And so now that this street nigga you done shot in the face
is coming
after you.
Yeah.
Now you want to act like a little, you know what?
Yeah.
And you want to be traded. Belichick said, no, baby. You make too much money, baby. You a product. You ain't no human. Nowhere. You ain't going nowhere. Work with the people on the team to get you another apartment.
Or
but you playing for us.
Yeah,
you make too much money for us.
If you thought you were leaving,
yeah,
you're funny because
but
you're not going anywhere.
At the end of the day, though, that's wrong.
That's why I put the Patriots are at fault because they could have drafted this man.
They were wrong for real. This man was fearing his life,
and they said
no, we don't care.
No,
we don't. Choose better friends.
It's like, sorry,
yeah.
So, but this episode is really when they get really deep into the trial, and one of the saddest parts of the entire trial was the fact that Odin's mom, Ursula Ward, when she was on trial, basically she was instructed to be as emotionless as possible, to not sway the jury one way or another.
Wow, they were showing pictures of her son's dead body.
And the lawyer's asking her, was he shot here? Was he shot here?
And she had to say, yeah.
Yeah.
That was hard.
That was the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's rough.
Can we, before we go any further, can we talk about, we hinted on it a little bit, I think, in episode 1 or 2. But can we just talk about how loyal Shayana was?
To a fault.
When they first got to the trial, the sister initially, she wasn't buying into the hype. Now I'm pulling some information from 2 documentaries that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't buying into the hype that Aaron was the killer.
Yeah.
Until evidence was being brought forth. Mm-hmm. And at first, Shayana, who was Aaron's fiance, and the sister, they were tight. They were trying to hang in there together and support each other. By mid-trial, Shayana's sister went from sitting with Shayana to sitting with Odin's people.
Yeah.
Because she knew then that Aaron had did it.
He did it, yeah.
That he killed Odin.
She couldn't deny it.
Yeah. And we get to see just how Shayana was getting caught up in the whole court case.
They mentioned it in episode 1, and I didn't bring it up because I knew that we would eventually get here, but they mentioned that either, like, the gun was in a box in the house, and Aaron told her, like, the gun is in the box just so you know, basically saying without saying, get rid of it.
Yeah. And see, her and Aaron were, been together since high school. Mm-hmm. So she kind of knows Aaron. She knows what he's all about. Let me tell you, the day that Aaron gave her that message from jail, that he said, the box you're looking for is in, I think, the cinema room or whatever.
Yeah, like the home.
And just so you know, well, that same day, Shayana's sister was at the house. That was the same day Shayana discarded the gun. I think she put it in the garbage can or something like that.
Yeah,
she got rid of it in a dumpster.
On the security.
It's all on because Aaron crazy, but we ain't gonna say crazy because we end up seeing what's going on. But anyway, Anyway, he has surveillance at his house, so it shows Shayana with this big bag of garbage and this box in it
that looks like a box.
Getting rid of the gun. But that same day, her sister was at the house, at the house crying. That was crazy to me. Shayana was down for him. She was gonna do, because Shayana was protecting that money too.
Yeah, because she knew, like, at the end of the day, I'm in this now, and now we have a kid in this.
We have a baby. We have a baby together, but also there's a lot on the line. Mm-hmm. There's a lot on the line. Okay.
So, one of the things that really made me like it split my like like emotions on it, because throughout the documentary I was like, man, like you got all this going for you and all these different factors are at play. At the end of the day, Aaron still did all the things that he did.
Yeah, he did.
But there were other things at play. But the one thing that I heard in his voice as time went on in the trial and everything, that was the hopelessness in his voice.
Mm-hmm.
And when
because at first he started out, when he first went to jail, he kept telling everybody, I'm just in training camp. Like, he was working out.
He kind of was enjoying it.
He was enjoying it. He got his three squares a day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he just like, okay, this not a big deal. Yada, yada, yada. But over time, like you said, he became hopeless.
And when someone is like suicidal,
mm-hmm.
you hear, this is the initial stage when you hear that.
Mm-hmm.
And you really only know if you've dealt with someone who eventually does commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you don't think that that's the next logical, or not logical step, but that's the next step.
Mm-hmm.
But there are stages to it, and this is kind of one of them, where you hear that hopelessness and you're trying to motivate that person, like, no, it's, you know, it's not as bad as you're thinking it's gonna be. It's gonna get better and everything.
Shayana was trying to do that for him.
Yeah, and she, like I said, only if you experience that firsthand do you like hear in his voice that he's like, no, like it's done for me.
Yeah.
Which that made me like.
Did it make you reflect?
Yeah, it did. It was extremely like, it made me extremely vulnerable. Having been in that, you know, in a case like that before.
Knowing someone
that eventually did commit suicide and talking to them, you know, in the days or weeks before, and you hear that in their voice.
Well, you were talking to him, what, the day before he committed suicide?
Yeah. And
did you hear anything in his voice?
Right.
Your friend?
So it's more of like the time before it, not so
the months leading up.
The months leading up is when you hear the hopelessness, I guess, like of them deciding that that's what they're going to do, and right before, you would never know, because it's like
they play it off.
Yeah, because they know that they're going to do it.
Yeah.
So there's
and they know you probably would try to talk them out of it.
Yeah, so it's like they're not happy, but it's like you would never know, and that's kind of.
Did you hear some happiness in your friend's voice? Not
happiness, but
content.
Yeah, like, you know, making peace with, this is what I'm going to do, and you know.
We did hear that in Aaron's voice, though, a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Even with, so they go through the trial with Odin Lloyd, and he's eventually convicted. And when he gets the conviction, he doesn't look swayed at all. He looks just like, okay.
Like, damn.
Yeah.
They got me.
And I wouldn't even say like, oh, I got caught even. It looked like he was...
It was a blank look.
It was
he had the same look throughout the trial.
It was a blank stare for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And they...
Then, how many years did he get? Did he get life?
I think he got life. And that, after that conviction is when they bring up the double homicide. And then they bring on the attorney that defended Casey Anthony. And she got...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know he defended Casey Anthony.
Mm-hmm. And so she famously got, you know, let go.
That man good.
Yeah, basically, because
he's
good, but
he's not good, but he's good at his job.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So they bring up the double homicide as a last ditch effort, I guess, to try and get Aaron out. And I wrote that they're basically doing like judicial gymnastics over this whole thing, because the people who are against Aaron. I guess the prosecution is trying to say that, you know, Aaron was this irate guy, and it was logical that he would, you know, be upset by having a drink spilled on him. And it also, you're thinking initially when they start talking about it that Aaron is going to get convicted on this too, because the victims' families, they were in there deep. Like, most of the people in there.
Yeah, they've had about 20, 30 people in there for the double homicide.
But
the families.
The only person that was there for Aaron was Shayana.
And by this time, Shayana was like dressing nice and hair done up.
Yeah.
I think she kind of got caught up in the limelight.
For sure. Yeah, she definitely got caught up, but
she was there for him.
They were trying to say, why would this family of these two men, they're all here, and not even the guy who did it, his family isn't even here to support him. So that kind of was trying to suggest that he
probably is the one that's guilty.
But it came to light with his lawyer, who's famously,
what was his lawyer's name? It slipped my mind.
It slipped my mind too, but they basically, it came to light that there wasn't a ton of evidence against Aaron, because they basically harped on the fact that it's not really logical for someone to have a drink spilled on them and then they commit a double homicide. Like, why would he shoot these two guys over something that small?
Well, first of all, and his lawyer's name, by the way, was Jose Baez or Baez.
Baez, yeah.
Well, first of all, they really were relying on Aaron's friend who he shot in the face.
Yeah.
They were relying on his testimony. And Aaron's lawyer, Jose, did a wonderful job of poking holes into his story. Yeah. So once he poked the holes in the story, they really didn't have any other witnesses.
They had nothing.
They really had nothing. So so what happened with that trial?
So eventually that trial, the jury found him not guilty. And that was the one conviction where he showed emotion, whether it was that someone believed him or that he, I guess he didn't have full, like, another conviction on top of the other one. I don't know what it was, but that was the first time that he showed, like, some type of emotion on being let go on those charges. Yeah.
His friend name was Alexander Bradley. Yeah.
I knew it was something that started with a B.
Yeah, his friend name was Alexander Bradley. So after Alexander gave his testimony, like, it literally was over. So all of those charges were dropped. It was so funny, though, that was the first time we saw any emotion in Aaron.
That's what I was saying. Like, it was weird because I don't really know why that was the first time, being what happened next after it. I really don't know, but maybe it was before he knew that he was, gonna go, that he got a win, I guess. And
but see, here's where I find I'm kind of not in agreement with you on 100% on the fact that he knew he was going to kill himself.
Maybe not at that point.
I think he was showing hopelessness, but he loved his daughter. Yeah. He loved his baby girl, and he thought about her every day during the trial, during the first trial, and during the second trial. Yeah, he thought about his baby girl. So when the charges were dropped on the second trial on the double homicide, I really believe, because he had already him and Jose Baez, his lawyer, had already started talking about appealing the Odin Lloyd case. Yeah, they had already talked about doing that, but then we find out, and I really believe this is why he killed himself.
Well, before we get to that part, okay, because there was another. It was like I guess like a media, like limbo, and I'm trying to find the actual name of it. But after he was convicted of the Odin Lloyd murder, there was a law or something in Massachusetts to where, well, I guess this comes later, but
it's okay. Go ahead and say it.
But it's basically a law that says that if the person in question dies in the jail, basically the trial, all the convictions are resolved and they go away. Yeah. So before that, but they were trying to say that in the jail that he was at, abatement, that's what it was called, abatement. But they were saying that the prisoners were very aware of that case because in the 70s or 80s there was a priest who was convicted of sexually abusing some children, and he was killed in the jail by inmates, and his trial and case eventually was just washed away because he was dead.
Yeah.
So after all of that is going on, he's convicted. He is resolved of the double homicide, but then it comes out that this journalist, which I cannot really say with certainty that she's a journalist, just because
she was trash.
That goes against any journalistic practice.
She was trash. Tell what she did though.
So she basically, he wins this trial, and she outs him on a radio show, basically saying that the real reason why he killed Odin Lloyd was that Odin saw him in a compromising position, probably with a man or something like that, and that's why he killed him. And just to me, being a journalism student and knowing and the journalistic process and everything,
her name was Michelle McPhee.
Michelle McPhee.
Yeah.
Outed this man in a public forum, saying that he was gay, and that's why he killed Odin Lloyd. And then 2 days later, he killed himself.
Aaron killed himself. That is the reason why I think he killed himself.
I think
because he had gone the whole time without the masses, the public, his girlfriend, his fiance, knowing that he was gay, that he was a closeted gay.
Yeah.
He went that whole time. And what happened was, in the Odin Lloyd trial, the prosecutors were going to try to introduce that part.
Yeah, the fact that he was
a closeted gay, man. But then they went against that. They decided not to do that. That's the reason why I feel like Aaron committed suicide, is because of Michelle McPhee. Aaron had gone that whole time and nobody knew that he was a closeted gay.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she gets on some doggone radio show.
Yeah.
And she talking about, oh, the reason why Odin Lloyd died and Aaron murdered him was because he saw Aaron in a compromising position, and they were making fun and telling jokes. It was gross. It was gross.
Yeah.
It was trashy and it was gross.
And so that's why I felt bad, because even I don't forgive at all what he did.
I don't either. But he didn't deserve that. Nobody deserves
human decency. That. Like that wasn't her truth to tell.
No.
And in that way of making fun of, saying like he was a tight end in every sense of the word or whatever.
Yeah.
It was
him
just
and
rude.
Her and whoever the radio guy was, they just. That's why I said that's why he killed himself. Yeah. He had gone the whole time and keeping that a secret, and so
I would say that I wouldn't go so far as to say his blood is on their hands, but
in a sense,
I think so, because if you're closeted for that long, and you're in jail, so you really don't have much of a say anyways, and then someone just outs you like that.
It's disgusting. Yeah. But we do know that he wrote 3 suicide notes, I guess probably just in case. And he wrote one to Shayana, his fiance, one to his daughter, and then one to his agent? His lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's when this whole abatement thing comes up. Is that it was speculation that if his case is like abated or whatever, he can get a kind of a payout from either like Patriots or something like that. He can get a payout for something. And there was Odin's friend who played football with him, the semi-pro guy, was saying, I'll never forgive this man, but if it came down to like doing something to make sure, like if I had to kill myself to make sure that my wife and my daughter were good,
I do it.
Yeah, I do it.
Yeah.
So he understood why, but then it came to being dicey because the Patriots weren't just going.
They weren't going to lay down and just pay Shayana all this money just because of the abatement law, to where he was is absolved of all of the crimes that were committed. Like, they were going to fight her tooth and nail, and really, I would love to know, did she get any money from it? Because Patriots got lawyers. They got a machine behind them.
That's what someone was saying. It would cost more.
To
fight them than to actually just pay her out. So
I don't even think she probably ended up, if she ended up with anything, you know, they probably, you know, gave her maybe $1 million or something like that. Mm-hmm. If that. I don't know if she ended up with anything.
And you know what? When you said $1 million, it made me think of in the second or third episode when Aaron was on the phone with his mom. It was at the beginning of the third episode when he got that big deal, that big contract deal from the
$40 million.
And she said, if you just gave me $1 million, then I'd be good.
His mama.
And he said, why would I give you $1 million when you've done nothing for me?
His mama was problematic. His mama was of the belief that, and I know a lot of women like this. Mm-hmm. I'm your mama.
Yeah.
You do as I say.
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm the trashiest mother alive. I'm still your mama. You still came through me.
Yeah.
Okay. So she telling him all you had to do was give me $1 million. If you got 40, you can at least give me $1 million. He's like, wait a minute. We ain't even got no relationship.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Why would I give you $1 million? And he's like, I don't even get the full 40.
Like, right.
So that
she was crazy.
When you brought up the men, that's what it made me think of that. But basically, once the abatement thing is brought up, Odin's mom, Ursula Ward, basically goes on this big protest campaign to fight and repeal that law just because it's outdated. And eventually, she's successful and they repeal it. And so they reinstate
the fact that he was guilty.
Conviction. So now he's still a convicted
felon. Yeah, murderer.
And so that kind of, you know, is really the end of the documentary, and they use the last bit to talk about
which this was probably one of the most important parts of the documentary, I believe.
The CTE. Yeah.
Shayana, the fiance, and Terry, the mother, came together, and Jose Baez, the lawyer, asked them, you know, would they sign the papers to actually, you know, dig up his body, and take a look at his brain, donate his brain, so that they could do research on CTE. And what that doctor discovered, she was an Alzheimer's doctor.
Yeah.
And so with the onset of all these CTE cases, she kind of got thrown into it, but she knows everything about the brain.
Yeah.
One thing that she said was his 27-year-old brain was one of the worst cases of CTE she'd ever seen.
And then she said his brain was really like functioning as like a 70-year-old or something like that. Like
it was really, and it kind of, it made you go from like looking at Aaron like Aaron was just like a sociopath, and not saying that he wasn't.
Yeah. Because there were other things at play.
It made you look like, oh my gosh, like he did have a true medical condition.
And his friend, his lifelong, like, best friend had said, like, yeah, Aaron still did all this stuff.
Yeah.
But you can see the different factors that, like, play.
It was, really. Not just his home life and his upbringing and the abuse that he saw from his dad to his mom, and also the suppression of his sexuality. He was dealing with brain injury. Yeah. So you mix that cocktail together
and
you got a mess.
Yeah. And that was when they brought up CTE, it made me think of I don't know if you remember. So back in 2007, I remember this clearly because it happened in Georgia, but there was a wrestler named Chris Benoit, and he wrestled for the WWE. He was very well known, and he ended up killing his son, his wife, and then himself. And his finishing move was a flying headbutt, which, that's an invitation for numerous concussions. And when they did a biopsy on his brain, it was much of the same. It was all that trauma that had been, like all these blows to the head, essentially, was that he was also functioning as like a 70-year-old Alzheimer patient. Like that's what his brain, and he was maybe like 32. So
that's terrible.
So that is it's a problem that runs rampant in
these aggressive sports.
And
these are real aggressive sports.
And one of the football players from Wisconsin, who ended up after a year saying, I'm not gonna do this.
He was a promising athlete.
Yeah.
And he played 1 year for some NFL team. Yeah. And then once he found out he had a brain injury, he was like, I'm retired.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do this. And so it kind of puts the lens or the spotlight back on the NFL, and just the football, process as a whole. Like the United States especially will always revere football because it's a violent sport.
And did you hear Robert Kraft, crooked ass, talking about, I played, my sons played, my grandson played, and I think any mother that want their child to play, they should let him play. And he had that old crooked smile that I don't trust him.
It was, with him, it was many points when he showed up. When he showed up for the trial, I think it was a double homicide trial, and they said, what do you do as a job? And he said, whatever they want me to do. I said, you're the owner of the Patriots. Let's move on.
Man.
Why are you being so dramatic?
You know what? He missing a couple of screws anyway, because then wasn't he the one that got caught at the Asian spa getting the happy ending?
It may be so.
Yeah, that was him. Okay.
So
all right, enough said.
All of this is ending with, like, Aaron Hernandez was this very troubled person. And that's not to forgive what he did, because what he did was still heinous. But there were a lot of factors at play in his life that, could have been easily avoided had he had maybe better people around him. Yeah. Had there been better regulations with the sport that he played for so long. Mm-hmm. And maybe the culture around the sport that, you play hurt, that whole mentality. There needs to be better, policies and things at play to protect, these players and to protect their brains, because it was throughout the documentary, they mentioned many times when players had cases of CTE that killed themselves.
And also, one thing we neglected to mention is the entire time Aaron was getting shot up with these illegal steroids. Yeah. He wasn't supposed to be.
Toradol, I think is the name.
Yeah, that was the name of it. He was getting shot up. It had become illegal in the NFL, but he said it had become illegal, but only in like harsh extreme cases.
Basically, people who were getting injuries consistently.
Right, and he said, and you know who was getting shot up every game? Me. Yeah. So my thing is, the NFL, first of all, they need to be responsible if CTE can be tied to brain injury and a person commits a heinous crime, the NFL needs to be fined. Mm-hmm. If you getting shot up every game with these illegal steroids, the NFL still needs to be fined.
And I don't think it'll ever happen.
It'll never happen.
They use these players as almost dispensable. They're still talent, but
they're not human.
Yeah. To them, they're not human.
No, they're a product. Mm-hmm. When you got a product, you're going to, it's about the money that the product brings in. It's not about you being a human. Yeah. So it was a sad case.
Very sad case.
And I'm drained.
Me too.
Just talking about it.
Yeah.
So our next episode is going to be something light.
Lighter than this, but still,
we're going to go in.
We're going to go in.
Oh.
But. It's lighter than this.
It's going to be lighter
than this. So, if you made it to this part,
good for you.
Good for you. That's all I can say. Good for you for making it. As always, I'm Bobbi.
And I'm Kay.
And this is The Gray Matter. Not the gray area. The Gray Matter. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.